First story. My wife refuses to accept our divorce, and I think she's trying to trick me. The author of the post is listed in the description. My wife, 29F, and I, 34M, have been married for 4 years, and up until a year and a half ago, things were fantastic. Our marriage began to deteriorate after there was a significant drop in sex between us. Not intimacy, just the actual sex part of the relationship. We would still cuddle and have deep, intimate moments talking and just being around each other. But she kept rejecting my attempts at taking things further past kissing. Now we have had no problem communicating, so I made sure to address it early, and we talked and made adjustments. We both made sure to stay in shape. We tried being more adventurous. We went to couples therapy, counseling, and even tested both of our hormone levels. Everything was normal. Each solution would work for a little while, and then we'd be back to having sex maybe once a month. I asked her several times if she was no longer attracted to me, to which she denied every time. I asked her if I was falling short in the relationship in any other way, to which she said no. Well, about a month ago, she gets back from her therapy session and tells me that she believes that she's asexual, and that's the reason for her libido being non-existent as of late. I was definitely confused because we had such great sex for a while in the beginning of our relationship, but her telling me that she's now asexual was heartbreaking because everything else is great. Obviously, I'm not going to force her to have sex, so we had a long conversation about our relationship, and I came to the conclusion that we should get a divorce. I say I because she immediately rejected the idea and said we would figure something out and wouldn't talk to me about it anymore. I didn't know what to say, so I dropped it. Well, 3 weeks go by without sex, and I decided that I have to do this for my own mental well-being, so I filed for divorce and had her served with the papers. Last week, when I got home from work, she was going about the day like nothing was wrong. I asked her if she signed the papers, and she flat out said, "We are not getting a divorce," and changed the subject and acted like things were normal. Obviously, I thought this was crazy, so I stopped her and said I couldn't be in a marriage devoid of sex, and I mentioned that I was being incredibly fair with our divorce. She can keep the house that we bought and paid for with cash. She paid 1.3, I paid 2.3. I'd take all of the debt, which isn't much. We'd split our savings and investments in half, and she can keep 2 of our 3 paid-off cars. I only wanted to keep my sports car. Thankfully, we don't have kids. I love her and wanted her to be comfortable, and I have no problem starting over since I make a good income. But she won't budge or talk about the divorce. This brings us to 2 days ago. I get home and go to our bedroom and find my wife's friend, 27F, in our bed naked. I immediately shut the door, said sorry, and went looking for my wife. I found her in the kitchen and asked what her friend was doing here, and she said that she was here for me. I put 2 and 2 together and said that I'm not having sex with other women in place of the woman I chose to marry. She was adamant on saying that I could sleep with her whenever I wanted, and that her friend agreed to it. I couldn't believe things would get this far, so I went back to our bedroom and asked her friend to leave. I packed a bag, and I've been staying in a hotel nearby since that night. My wife, her mother, and her sister keeps calling me, but I'm just not interested in hearing what they have to say. This feels like a trick. I just want this whole thing to be over. Does anyone have advice? Is this some kind of ploy for alimony? We do have a prenup. Should I just contact my lawyer and try and force the divorce? I'm really uncomfortable with this entire situation. Edit. We talked last night. I'll update when I get home from work. Edit 2. Here's the update if anyone's interested. I'll try to keep this as concise as possible. I feel overwhelmed, so I probably won't bother with another update after this one, I don't know. My wife came to my hotel last night and we talked about everything. She told me the full truth and what's going on in her mind. 1. A few of you commented this in the last post, so you were right. She has always been asexual. She and her whole family has known this since she was 16. Apparently, this is the reason why her last long-term relationship of 3 years ended. He broke up with her after the sex between them diminished to being non-existent after the first year. She told me that sex is easier for her in the beginning when emotions are running high, but she still needs to force herself to have it. I knew they broke up due to irresolvable differences, but I didn't ask for details, nor did she tell me. After a lot of apologies and crying, she told me that I was the first person she was able to tolerate sex with for so long, and that she did enjoy it a handful of times. But after a while, she still felt like she was being raped. I broke down after hearing this and started kicking myself for not catching on to any of this. She said she tried her best to please me as much as she could. 2. She still doesn't want a divorce, and she doesn't want the house, cars, or the savings. She just wants me and is ready to do whatever it takes to keep me. She even said that she would sign a postnup stating this. 3. As for her friend, she was there during her last breakup and helped to support her through it. My wife went to her after I brought up divorce and talked things out. Her friend suggested that she open the relationship for me, but she said she didn't want me sleeping with strange women, so her friend volunteered herself to be the one that sleeps with me. My wife thought this was a great idea, which led to the fiasco at our house. I won't comment on her appearance because it doesn't matter, and I don't blame the friend. 4. My lawyer got back to me. You were all right. I don't need her permission, but I will have to wait if I want to push it through. 5. I asked her why she lied to me this entire time, and she said she was tired of being rejected after revealing she was asexual, so she convinced herself that she would be able to force herself to have sex during the relationship. The hormone testing, the sessions in couples therapy, and all of our solutions was just her buying time to find another way around sex or give herself enough time to build up the strength to start regularly having sex with me again. 6. Our conversation ended with us holding each other in bed, crying for a couple of hours. No, we didn't have sex. She pleaded with me to hold off on the divorce to look for a solution together and left my hotel room. 7. I'm now sitting alone typing this fucking post. I guess I found out that we don't share everything with each other. 8. Thank you to everyone who has messaged me directly. I'm still trying to get to all of them. 9. I don't know what I'm going to do. Relevant comments. How long has the wife knew about the divorce? OP. We lightly touched on the subject 4 months prior to getting served. The final push was when she discovered that she was asexual. I brought up divorce at that time, but she didn't want to talk about it and said she won't consider a divorce. I was stonewalled from that specific conversation. I filed anyway. It was the first time she refused to talk to me about any subject. I was surprised since we share literally everything with each other. Is it a medical issue? OP. If it was a medical issue, I wouldn't have made this post and I'd be by my wife's side right now. But it isn't the case, and sex is how I show and feel my love. We only get to do this being a human thing once, and sex is important to me. Is she depressed? Oop, I don't think she's depressed. I'm sure her therapist would have caught it or she would have told me, but I can't be sure now. Other than sex, things have been normal. I can't imagine that we missed anything. She really did put in a ton of effort. We both did do. But thank you. I know we'll both be fine, but I figure it's better to do this now before we accidentally have children. Update. I don't think I can link my previous posts, so just go to my profile, I guess, if you care to read the op. I've tried to read every comment message and take to heart what most of you had to say. Also, please stop messaging me. I can't respond to everyone. It's too much. I'll make this as short as possible. After my last update, my wife asked me to meet with her about a week later to discuss things with her. I've been staying at an extended stay since that night with her friend. We met at our house and talked for a few hours. She started off with a ton of apologies for how she acted, her lying about her sexuality, and not taking my sexual needs more seriously. Before I could say anything, she presented a signed postnup agreement she had drafted with a lawyer, stating that she doesn't want anything. The house, the cars, savings, everything. I felt like the biggest asshole for thinking that she was tricking me for more money. I asked her if she was serious, and she told me to take the postnup with me and sign it when I'm ready. I still haven't signed it. It's in my backpack. I told her that I still think divorce is our best course of action and that we both deserve to find someone who matches our needs. She still refused and borderline begged me to reconsider. She started crying, and so did I. Seeing her like this was devastating. I told her that her finding other women to sleep with me wasn't going to work. What if I develop feelings for them? What if I get one of them pregnant? Do we expect her to get an abortion? She said we'll figure it out as we go along, and to please give her more time to work on other solutions. She's set up appointments for sex and hormone therapy, and it's seeing a sex guru. I said that it sounds like we're going through the same things again, but she was adamant and pleaded with me to wait. There were more apologies on both sides, and we kissed for a while before ending the conversation. Then I went back to my hotel that night. A few days later, I tried texting her, but she didn't respond, so I called her dad. I'm avoiding her mother and sister since they are saying the same things as my wife. Her dad told me that she moved back home and has been holed up in her room since our talk. She called out of work. He told me that she's barely eating, bathing, or talking to him or her mom. He asked me what I was going to do, but I didn't have an answer for him. He just said he understands and said he would be here to talk anytime I wanted to. So I went back to our house, and a good portion of her stuff was gone. The whole place feels empty. I've been sleeping in one of the spare rooms. I'm planning on flying to my mother's house in a couple weeks to spend time with my family to decompress from this entire situation. I'm still on the divorce side of the fence, but I guess there's no rush. Thank you to everyone for your insight and concern. Seriously, I know we're all strangers, but most of you have been a huge help to my mental health. Seriously, thank you. Also, my cousin uses Reddit and reached out after he found my last post and asked me to shout him out if I made an update. Love you, Virgil. Thank you for being there for me. I think I'll just make a quick edit to this post once we reach a resolution for anyone that cares. Okay, next story. I broke my wife, and I don't think it is fixable. This happened 6 months ago, and I only chose to talk now because I don't see improvement in sight and I'm hopeless. We were at a party. My friend is single, and we started talking about love and relationships. My wife and I have been happily married for 7 years. We have 3 beautiful children. She is the love of my life. When I was talking to my friend, I felt like we were on different levels of thinking. His complaints are mostly superficial about how the people he dated looked. I was a bit drunk at that point and said something like, "You don't fall in love with looks. Look at me and my wife. I love her more than anything compared to my ex who was just looks." Everyone went silent, and my damage control was worse, so I ended up shutting the hell up. I couldn't get my point across, but even I thought that maybe these thoughts have been in my head, but only came out when I was drunk. My wife was shocked. First week she was so angry and wanted to understand what I meant, and nothing I said was good enough. I was drunk. I love her. I think she's the most beautiful woman. She thought being drunk made me say my true feelings. Then one morning she just said, "You know, I have never felt as ugly as I have felt this past week. I have always thought I am beautiful." She didn't cry this time, but she hasn't been happy since. I started crying and apologizing, but she was like emotionless. It was the last time she looked at me too. She is taciturn and distant, but only with me. She has lost 20 pounds and she works out 6, 7 days a week. She never has free time with me. If she's not with the children or her family and friends, she's immersed in some book or has her headphones on. She's always fully clothed, now even in bed. She locks the bathroom door when she takes a shower. She is more active on social media too. She shares many pictures of her, and she thanks everyone who gives her a compliment. Before, it was just pictures with our children and pets, but now it's her, working out in sports bras and tights. I broke her, and I don't know how to fix it. Comments. Kometner. You say your damage control was worse. What else did you say that night, and how long did you do it for? My friend and my wife's friend and husband were very silent. And I started saying that I didn't mean that my wife wasn't good looking, I just meant that I loved her for other things. Then even worse, I said that sometimes you are very attracted to someone and everything is a whirlwind with them, but you have nothing in common and see no future, and I probably alluded that I used my brain and not my dick when looking for a relationship. I thought it was the logical way of thinking, but for her, I think she would have preferred that whirlwind and passion. I haven't read all comments. This is the first one I read that asked to explain the damage control. Edited in OP's comments on damage control. Commenter. Yeah. Knowing what he said for damage control is necessary because that error would have been so easy to fix. Oh God, no. What I meant was, my wife has more than good looks, which is why our marriage works. She's more than her pretty face. So I can only imagine what he spewed to make it this bad. Commenter. The fact that everybody has asked him and he hasn't said, I am gonna guess it was bad, even too bad for the batshit insanity of Reddit. Commenter. She didn't cry this time. That says a lot. Update. 26 days later. We have been going to counseling and my wife at first has been very reluctant to open up and wanted to pretend that everything was fine. One session she just asked me, I want the truth. Here and now. No sugarcoating and do not try to spare my feelings. Did you find me attractive when we met? I really didn't know what to say to this. I love her more than anything, even more than my children and myself. I think that she's the most beautiful woman I know, but did I immediately think that when I met her? No, I didn't really find her attractive. We all grow up having a type. I remember thinking that she wasn't exactly my type, but she was so lovable and sweet. It didn't take me long to fall for her, and now I find women who look like her attractive, so I guess type is something very superficial and fleeting. I told her the truth. She cried and said that she herself didn't know why she was so hurt and crying. She knew that there were more beautiful women. She never wanted to be the most beautiful woman either, but that she always been considered beautiful by other people, which is true, and always got attention. But the fact that the one person she wanted to be found the most beautiful girl in the world by didn't think that. And that's what made her sad. The man she loved way before we even started dating. This was on our latest session, and it was the most draining experience. Later, when we got home, she apologized for making a big deal out of something this trivial, but that she just couldn't help it, and she was as confused to why it affected her so badly. On Saturday, she told me that she didn't want to stay in our marriage, that something broke inside of her. She asked me if I would try to hurt her and the children if we did separate, if I would use them to get back at her, alienate her because she chose to leave. I promised her that none of this would happen, and that I loved her and wanted her to be happy, even if it wasn't with me. Our families are in uproar over this. Mostly they're angry with her, that she let her insecurities get the best and worst of her. But I don't think it is insecurity, TBH. She has never cared about people's attention. She just realized that the only person whose approval she cared about didn't give her. At least that he had to learn it, and that wasn't enough. Comments. Commenter, dude, your pencil is not sharp at all. You really could have changed the way you said that to her. I had a type back then, but one look at you and that type was broken. You were the most amazing woman I had ever met. You were different than every other woman in the best ways possible. You could have also said, you fall in like with looks, you fall in love with the person they are. Your wife is struggling and you keep putting your foot in your mouth. Commenter, he is so painfully honest in the worst and most stupid way ever. Commenter, honey, your ugliness isn't that bad. Look on the bright side, your immense obesity distracts from your face. After a while, you forget it's there and just focus on the obvious stretch marks. That's good. That's a good thing. Commenter, your families are angry with her? Commenter, probably not. The dude just doesn't know how to read social cues. So when they listen to him or talk sympathetically, he interprets it all wrong. How do you like these stories? Write your opinion in the comments. Let's get 1,000 subscribers on this channel. Love you.